If you want to know what happened during Dynatrace Perform and moreover get the atmosphere of the conference, then this episode is for you. Welcome to Is It Observable? Today's episode is a bit special. We're going to talk about the conference Dynatrace Perform, which is the user conference of Dynatrace. You may ask yourself, yeah, but you already released an episode about it. Yeah, that's true, with a couple of interviews. In fact, it was a sort of live episode, even if we were not able to stream lively all those interviews during the actual conference. So this episode will try to share the experience and also provide more interviews because we delivered so many interviews during the conference. We were probably going to have similar interviews that you may have seen on the previous episode, but don't worry, you still have lots of great news about Dynatrace partners, Dynatrace product managers. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So follow me in Vegas to Dynatrace Perform.
Almost 9 years, primarily working with the Dynatrace University team, a little bit of services before that, and I have a career in the IT industry for about 20 years.
So you're managing mainly the hot days. So the first, for those who are not aware what the hot days, it's before to perform. There is 2 days where we have different training sessions. So how many sessions do we have this year?
So this year we had 20 sessions running over the 4 time slots of the 2 days. So folks had the opportunity to take up to 4 while they were here, so 2 each day.
So and how many students were part of those sessions?
We had a record number of almost 600 people this year. And they filled about 1,400 seats, which equals about 1,400 environments that were running as well.
And then so the hot day, I guess it's been like a tradition with Perform. So did you have the history? When did it actually start?
I do have a little bit of the history. So it started, the first one I was involved with was 2015. It was our last year in Orlando. We used to do Perform in October. And we've been running it every year since. We used to only do 1 day, so it was 1 day where you could do an AM and a PM class, and it's gotten so popular that we now do the 2 days. My understanding is originally it was part of an early version of Perform. It was almost like a user group / conference, and the SE team started to do a little bit of training involved in it, and then it's grown to what it is today.
But behind before those sessions, and I've been involved in one of the sessions, there are a lot of environments behind the scene, so there's a lot of hard work. So could you maybe walk through the process, because at the end it's not just 20 sessions, it's more than that. So maybe there's a lot of things behind the scene going on.
Yeah. So we start pre-planning generally in the beginning of summer, talking about what sessions we want to offer, which Dynatrace experts are coming back to get involved in it again. We have about 90 that were involved this year to do all that hard work behind the scenes, whether it was putting content together, developing the lab guides, the exercises, and we also have the engineering lab teams at Dynatrace that are involved in working with the environments and making sure they run smoothly. So it's several months of work that comes together to give those great 2 days.
Hi, nice to meet you. So I'm Luca Forni, the CEO of Akamas. So with Stefano, we invented this software technology that we hope that change the rules in terms of optimization of IT.
So you initially, I know that Akamas was mainly designed to do some optimization, so auto-tunings of any type of system, so Kubernetes, JVM, and other things. And I know that recently you changed what you did.
Yeah, the idea is that we started also because customers are a bit afraid about having an AI that can change things in their production environment. They require us to move on the pre-production one, so we connect and integrate with a lot of stress testing to support the capabilities of people that performance engineering that are doing performance tests to tune the application before moving in the production environment. Of course, after customers were really happy about what happened in the pre-production environment thanks to the Akamas capability to tune the system in pre-production, they start asking us to move to directly in production system. But of course, the game changed because when we deal with production, you have to be more safe, of course, and moreover, you cannot pilot and drive the load. So you have to be sure that what happens on your system and what you gather from tools like Dynatrace, so the monitoring stuff, is related to the change that the system is behaving and not really to the real load of the users. So we have to add another part of our AI potential software that's able to recognize if the changes that are happening on the system are due to the capability of Akamas to change things, or really the change in the what we call context. So how the system is reacting to the change in the user workload, so our real user. So in this area, we understood that the main point for customer right now is focusing on Kubernetes environment, and so we start focusing on this specific part of so on the live environment. We are truly focused on the Kubernetes one and what we call the runtime that is running in Kubernetes, so in Java, Golang, .NET. Instead of having a wider option of all full technology supported, that is quite different.
So, two questions that comes to my mind. First, you are lively changing the production, and I know a couple of users will say, "What? I'm never." So, is there an option where you make like a comment or suggestion? Someone needs to agree.
Yeah, the idea is that according also to what customers asking us, we introduced the capability of Akamas to suggest the configuration and wait before a manual approval. So you can review the configuration that Akamas calculated, and before Akamas start applying it, you can review, approve, or eventually change things if you are not satisfied or are too scared about the changes.
So you're right. So I mean, a big part of Dynatrace's success is our ability to integrate and have better together, as we call it, kind of use cases enabled through our partners. So that's the role I play in Dynatrace as a technical partner, kind of architect, as well as an evangelist of some of the great integrations that we have.
So I think you had a breakout session yesterday.
That's right. Yeah. So in addition to kind of the partners, I also work with a lot of customers. So today's breakout session is around the use case of incident management. I have a great co-speaker that's from Royal Canadian Bank. And so we're talking about really the capabilities that are built into the Dynatrace platform to reduce the noise of incidents. So Dynatrace does a great job to detect problems, and it creates in the form of a problem card. That Davis, does the impact analysis automatically, but it can generate a lot of problems. And not everyone really is an incident that you need to engage a team on. So really, it's really talking about that use case of how we can reduce the noise is the name of our talk.
So is this are they integrating the problems with another ticketing systems or anything like this?
That's exactly right. So what we're trying to do is, inform Dynatrace. So Dynatrace out of the box, is great, right? You have full stack visibility. You're seeing, horizontal transactions through pure paths, and also open telemetry traces. You see the user impact, user behavior, which then can lead into, is this a business impacting thing? Is this a service level impacting thing? But you still have to tell Dynatrace, what is this service? Is this a production related thing or non-production thing? Is this something that I really only want to inform people to resolve during business hours or not during business hours, and that type of data. So really telling Dynatrace through a variety of techniques then can inform the actual ticketing system. So we take a problem, and in their case of this bank, are sending it to PagerDuty. So within PagerDuty, they have the actual on-call support teams, and they map like the services in Dynatrace and the applications in Dynatrace to those appropriate teams to manage those tickets. And so how the ticket priority actually translates to give you a level of impact detected by Dynatrace, but does that become a priority 1 ticket, a priority 2 ticket? Does that page someone up in the middle of the night? So that kind of logic happens, in conjunction with the data that we have in Dynatrace to feed into our partner ecosystem tools.
So my name is Kevin Holmes. I'm a Nashville-based solution architect within Red Hat. I'm on a team that's referred to as the ISV ecosystem team. Essentially, we work closely with independent software vendors, Dynatrace very specifically. We've got a great relationship with the counterparts on the Dynatrace side, working with integration. So I'm an Ansible specialist within Red Hat. I've been very focused on Ansible as a solution. I work closely with engineering, so I'm not necessarily the smartest person in the room, but I surround myself with smart people.
If you made it into this room, you're smart. Seriously.
Fair enough.
Have you talked to him for 5 minutes?
Fair enough.
So-
But yeah, I work closely with the partners and the integration. We've been working closely on the Dynatrace auto remediation. Easy for me to say. Auto remediation solutions around Ansible automation, which is fantastic in its own light. Dynatrace is head of its class. And when you put the two together, give them a very special hug, fantastic things happen. Cool.
So you mentioned Ansible and auto remediation, and this is a topic I love because especially when you deal with observability, at the end you will get alerts, and it's great to have been alerted, but sometimes you want to do something out of the alerts.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips or recommendation if someone wants to say, hey, I love remediation, but it's just very complicated to say that?
Yeah, so my prescriptive stance from this is very much, and they say to a nail or to a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So to an Ansible fanatic, everything starts with an Ansible playbook. There are a number of ways to come at this. There are different ways to approach this, but my prescriptive stance is from a day one, building things out within an Ansible playbook, having a prescriptive set of a desired state. So I have an Ansible playbook that says I want to build out this application based on these parameters,
Right.
And when I build that, I can then apply or reapply that through idempotency. What this gives me is then when Dynatrace detects an anomaly, it can go back and say, well, I need to launch an Ansible playbook to put this back in the desired state. We already have that built, so it's not an extra lift. And the reason I talk about this is sort of a day one. If people don't have this, they can actually put the extra effort in and build that playbook to remediate after the fact.
So, but it means at the end you have to sort of list all the potential errors and problems that you can potentially face, and then list, okay, this is a problem related to my front end, about the disk, whatever, or the memory. So then you will have to design the right playbook for that specific problem.
Yes, however, when one of the amazing things about this integration, so when Dynatrace says we've discovered a problem, there are additional parameters for that problem that are sent, a number of, it's sort of, think of it as a payload with the API. So When Ansible receives this alert, it says we're auto-remediating based on all this information. Ansible can then parse through those parameters that were sent and oftentimes determine, because an Ansible playbook isn't just a static piece of code, it's almost a living, breathing, it's evaluating these parameters that are sent. So Dynatrace, this could be very simple, could be very complex, where the Ansible playbook says, oh, look, we have these 3 parameters that are, and again, it's written based on things that we predict, but different parameters might be in place depending on the different types of failure. So whatever that anomaly is, Ansible can evaluate as it goes and even make additional decisions based on that.
Thomas Rothschaedl. I'm here with Dynatrace now since 8 years. Started as sales engineer and then transitioned over as product manager in the apps and microservice solution, basically handling topics around distributed tracing And yeah, we had some great announcements today also.
So I think you had a session today.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the session about?
Yeah, the session was basically about having all data in context, putting especially a focus on having logs in context of traces, and also how Grail can support this in the future then basically.
So it means that the session was mainly focused on Grail in general?
No, more on tracing. So basically why it's important to have all context. You have traces, metrics, logs in context, like also entity data, like metadata, user sessions especially there.
User session?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one key point was there have been perhaps issues a log entry gives you not too much context in it. Something happens. And you want to understand how is the full context looking like? What did the user in the end user interface clicked? What was the action of him that led to that specific log entry, for instance?
So when people usually think about Grail, they think about logs in general. And here you mentioned a couple of other signals. So you mentioned traces, you mentioned different things. So could you tell us a bit more? So you have several signals supported.
Exactly. So basically what is the key point of Dynatrace is we put all the signals into context. So it's very easy. You have them at hand when you're interested. Okay, what led to that specific log message? Here we had in this example a log message that was shown here. This credit card type was not supported, but it tells you nothing basically. It doesn't tell you what did the user do. Did he then just put out the other credit card and swipe with that? And that's what we basically can do. Or he did even got the proper error message. And in the example, I just saw the stack trace. So in the UI, not the best. That it's very doubtfully that he then chose the credit card again. And when we looked at the user session, we could exactly see he left the page and never come back here.
So it means that you from a query perspective, I'm in Dynatrace. I can run Dynatrace query language of DQL for those who are not aware, and I can say, okay, I want to look at logs, and I want to cross-correlate with traces or with other signals.
Yeah, so what I have shown there was basically already backed into the UI. You do not need to make a query. So that's really where we guide the user through. It's nicely interacted there. But what is new, what we can do in the future is that we announced that right now we have logs in Grail, but we will also in the future have all the trace data in Grail. So that means that customer can also build their own queries on that and can slice and dice the data freely without any need of having this pre-indexed. They can access all the rich data that is there, even to solve to analyze the unknown unknowns.
Okay. And that is pretty exciting because sometimes when you build some open temperature trace, you can have, let's say, span attributes, and you have some events, and you can have some special values in the attributes. So would I be able to say in a query, say, oh, I'm interested only on the spans, having this specific attributes and so on, and with this event or whatever?
Exactly. That's the big goal here in that case, that you can really slice and dice the data as you want to have it. For instance, here we just very often I got the question from customers, oh yeah, we see here the client IP and we had this attack or something like that. And we proactively allowed to access this information and to find out what was happening there in a completely other use case that we perhaps anticipated in the first.
So I'm Darrell Dunn. I've been working in the SRE space, DevOps space for the past 15 plus years. I tested Y2K, so that can give you an idea where I'm at. I'm ancient. But yeah, that's me, and working with customers every day, causing chaos and improving reliability of their services is what we do.
So before we go more on the SRE topics and the various news about Gremlin, could you maybe remind to us what is the integration between Dynatrace and Gremlin parts?
Absolutely. And the new announcements are just got us all excited as well. So we use Gremlin creates reliability tests in your environments. We call it chaos tests, where we take things down. And so, for example, we would take down a web service or something, and then we would use Dynatrace to do the monitoring of it. We would inject when our events start and when it finishes, so you can see those bookended inside of Dynatrace, and you would observe that event all the way through. Tracing, all that good stuff is how we would integrate through there.
So you will use the Dynatrace as a source to say, evaluate if the experiment is healthy, or in opposite, it needs to be stopped and we need to record in demonstration.
Exactly. Gremlin is all about building hypotheses and testing those to see if they're true or not. So if your developers say, oh, we can support an outage of our S3 in the US West Region 1, if we lose that region, we're fine. Well, you can test that with Gremlin.
So you mentioned, I've been using Gremlin since many years, and I didn't have a chance to reuse it recently. So could you tell us a bit more about what are the latest features that Gremlin provides to the market?
Absolutely. So originally we called it fault injection, where we create attacks, state resource attacks, and then also from there we've decided that we really need to focus in on improving reliability of services. That's what customers are really looking for. So we have a new product, reliability management, to where we're going to give you a base framework of tests to where you don't have to go out, you don't have to utilize an SRE's time to create all these tests. We're going to give you a framework of those tests pre-created for you. You basically just point it to a service, and then we give you a reliability score. That score is very important. It can tell you whether you're improving, because you can run a functional test, you can run a performance test, but that may or may not tell you whether you're reliable or not.
Yeah.
So it tests 3 different dimensions: scalability, redundancy, and dependencies. And then we give you a score on that you can take action on with your pipeline. You can dashboard that with the new app engine that Dynatrace has come out with, and then also the Site Reliability Guardian. We can become a voice in the chorus to help you decide whether you're reliable or not. Because you might have a new Kubernetes admin that comes in, and maybe they've accidentally munged a YAML, or you're not auto scaling anymore like you thought you were. We're gonna expose that for you.
So how do you guide that experiments for the user? So you like to run some, like you said, some load test or some unit test or functional test, and from the behavior and the data that comes from Dynatrace, your suggestions to experiments, or you're maybe more saying, oh, you're using this technology, you should considering those experiments.
So the tool will give you some insights after you've run your test. Of course, we give you the score. The reliability management piece actually schedules those tests for you. We have curated the kind of the ones that expose scalability, a host and zone test, and a dependencies test. The dependencies test consists of a shutdown, latency, and a certificate expiry. All those things are just major pain points for customers. So we do that for you, and we're going to tell you, hey, you did not survive the expiry test, and we're going to take that out of your score. But yeah, it gives you a place to start. We give you a place to triage the service and tell it whether you can survive reliability attacks to where you're not up or having some kind of issue.
I'm Shawn Pearson. I'm a solutions engineer here at Dynatrace. I've been here for a couple of years. Before that, I worked in several corporate environments doing a lot of the kind of typical things an APM team would do. Really enjoyed a lot of what I did there. Ended up using Dynatrace. So end of the day, and worked for the company itself and enjoying it.
What I really like with the hot day session is all the jokes that you were making. It was so fun. I mean, I would say as an attendee, I'd love to attend just the session because you were very funny.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think we had a great dialogue back and forth too, especially figuring out all the text-based editing we were doing and all the work I had to go there. So that was really fun.
So I heard that you are working on a sort of a contest or a game for the Dynatrace users or prospects. So could you tell us a bit more?
Sure. And this seemed like the best time to sort of share this with everyone here at Perform, all the new features and things that are coming out, to share with everybody what we're calling the Dynatrace Challenge. It's an opportunity to, if you haven't tried Dynatrace yourself, to have the ability to try it out very quickly in your own environment and really prove out that in a lunch, maybe during an afternoon break, that you really can deploy Dynatrace, make it work exactly like it shows, and when we do our demos and the things you've seen it perform, and it actually does what you expect it to do in your environment.
Do you also plan to do like sort of escape games where you have issues and problems to resolve and use Dynatrace to diagnose the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. One of the really key things about this is not only do we deploy Dynatrace when we do this, but For everybody who does deploy it, there's an application that'll show up. When you go into the application, not only when you log in, you get the ability to go into the operations section of the application, play developer, deploy a service that doesn't work, and you'll see Dynatrace immediately detect that root cause and find the problem for you and solve the problem at the end of the day.
And are you covering different topics like, I don't know, building an SLO rule, creating alerts, or configuring Dynatrace to, I don't know, get specific assets out of it, or you just focus on the onboarding aspects?
No, that's a great question. So really the challenge itself is to deploy Dynatrace in a completely open, blank cloud environment of your choice with a completely open backend Dynatrace trial that's brand new. But then once you've deployed it, you've seen the root cause, absolutely. The second half of the challenge then is the ability to deploy a service level, do a little bit of dashboarding, enable some of the front end, and actually see session replays of your users coming through the site.
So if I hear the name gaming, what can I win?
Hopefully you win the confidence that Dynatrace works well for you. But yeah, there certainly needs to be some sort of prize involved at some point, I'm sure.
Okay, I think it's a great initiative. I mean, at least having driving the onboarding and the experience on using Dynatrace through a game approach. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully it's good for everybody, and it's we have some good feedback on it.
So how can people use that game and the challenge? When it would be available?
Sure, it's available right now. Maybe we can put some links in when we do the video here to connect you to it. But really, all you need at this point is the ability to set up a Kubernetes cluster in your environment of choice. It could be AWS, it could be Azure or Google. You can sign up for a free trial anytime as well, dynatrace.com/trial, and follow the link that we'll provide, and you can start it today.
So Steve Weisfeldt, solution architect at Tricentis. As Henrik mentioned, we go way back, working at Neotis on the Neoload tool. We both started about the same time, 2009, 2010. Yeah. I started 2010.
I started 20.
You taught me everything I knew. You trained me when I first started in 2010.
Yeah.
And then rolled that all the way through the Tricentis acquisition about 2 years ago, and is still working here at Tricentis, specifically supporting Neoload.
Okay. So before we jump into any updates about Tricentis Neoload, first of all, there is an actual partnership between Tricentis and Dynatrace. Mm-hmm. So what do you provide to the Dynatrace users, or what Dynatrace provides to the Tricentis users?
It's a technical integration between the two tools, between Neoload and Dynatrace, allowing us to better bridge what I call complementary performance data from two different views. One from the sort of user's perspective, the round trip times that a load testing tool will measure, along with what Dynatrace makes on the back end. The challenge is that we need to combine the two of them to do proper analysis. And if we don't have that automated, it's a very mundane manual process. Looking at different tools, different data dumps, and it's not accurate, not productive. So the integration allows us to bring the data from the two tools together in a single interface. We can bring your data into Neoload, so we can combine for the load testing engineer, look at in the interface that they're familiar with, look at the two together, or we can push data from our tool into Dynatrace, so that ops person that might not care about the load testing tool, they want to see data, they're familiar with the Dynatrace interface, they can look at the data from both tools together on their side.
Yeah, weird. And so we talked about the integration, but I'm pretty sure that Tricentis Neoload provides a lot of new features recently. So are there any specific features or announcements that you made recently, and with new protocol supports or support of new technology that will be meaningful for users?
I would say the most recent thing, not necessarily specific to Dynatrace and to APM, is the addition of a browser-based approach in Neoload. So historically, we've been a protocol-based testing tool. We do support SAP GUI and Citrix and some kind of thick client technologies, but primarily it's been web, API, browser, mobile, etc., and not having any concern with the client itself. So late last year, Q4-ish, we introduced Real Browser in our Neoload 9.x version, which allows us to sort of drop. A virtual user now drives the client. So instead of having to worry about the complex scripting challenges that might come into play when someone's dealing with a lot of correlations and things of that nature, we script almost like an automation script. It's interacting with a GUI, allows us to make scripting complete a lot faster, but beyond that, allows us to collect client-side measurements, so we can get a sense of not just how the application is responding from a round-trip response time point of view, but also how long is it taking to load the DOM and client-side things that might be impacting the overall end-user experience.
And the other great thing is if you are Dynatrace users, it means if you have the real user monitoring enabled, at the end, it means that this test is also providing user sessions in Dynatrace. You can use session replay. So then it also speed up the analysis and why this particular user had this problem. Is it a UI problem? Is it a performance-related problem? So then you can deep dive.
At the end of the day, it's all about trying to make the job easier and faster.
Yeah.
The metrics are there. There's always been ways to get the metrics. Might have been a stopwatch in the old days, but collecting them and being able to analyze them productively has been the challenge. And now we've got these great things that can.
Hi everybody, I'm Kristof. I'm heading up the innovation services team here at Dynatrace. Been with the company for a very long time, always working with customers, so very customer facing, making sure that customers are making the most of their Dynatrace investment and taking them on that journey, and now coming up with new innovative ways for our customers to leverage the platform.
So innovation of services, so what does it actually mean for the customers?
Yeah, for sure. So everybody who knows Dynatrace, they know the great value in the data that it provides, right? Answer-driven automation is kind of in our tagline, right? So we want to make sure that this data is indeed leveraged for innovative ways. So we come up with new ways that our customers can use this data. So thinking about automatically validating releases, right? When you're doing software development based on the data that Dynatrace has, right?
So if you do automatic validating releases, are you referring, for example, of the usage of solutions like Captain and the module cloud automation?
Yeah, exactly. My team was really on the forefront of bringing that kind of technology to customers, and then also driving our product innovation that we now see in cloud automation with our customers.
And more than just cloud automation, do you also help customers to enable remediations or auto-remediation processes?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we do. So we work with a lot of technology partners in doing that, and so we want to make sure that when a problem happens, and it's reality, right? Problems do happen, that our customers can drive that mean time to repair as low as possible by taking the data and the context that Dynatrace has about a problem to trigger an automated remediation to solve that problem as quickly as possible.
So if we are here today at Vegas, it's just good to play on the casino. I guess there's a purpose. So could you reveal a bit what your presence? Do you have any sessions that you are going to present soon? Could you give us some details?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing that I'm here for, and actually a lot of customers come here for to perform, is our hands-on training sessions. They're already over. That was yesterday and the day before, where we had, I think it was about 20 or so different sessions where customers could learn about our platform and take something home, right? Basically, when they come back from Vegas, implement that in their own environment. So that was the first reason why I was here. And the other reason is I'm talking tomorrow at a breakout on developer productivity, right? So DORA metrics and how Dynatrace can help organizations by measuring their productivity and get better at developing and releasing software.
Yeah, my name is Frank Madeja from Germany. I work for the Ergo IT, and I'm head of service analytics. And we're using heavily Dynatrace for service level management, for operational things, and root causing of applications, DevOps.
So it's that Triscon IT has helped you to implement these things. Maybe could you explain how you use Dynatrace today? What was the context for using Dynatrace?
Sure. I'll go ahead. Brief summary of 5 years. So
we've been working together a lot over a couple of last years, and we've been supporting Ergo with performance testing. And it was just natural for us that we needed some solution to analyze our performance tests to understand the root cause. And we saw that there is much more need in terms of observability, so we introduced Dynatrace as a solution for various topics. We saw it at Ergo. And it started, I think, with a POC 2.5 years ago. And it has made, I would say, a lot of people happy so far already, and more people becoming more happy every day. Would you like to add something? Definitely. We enlarged our Dynatrace installation last year with a unified group contract with New Greek together. So we have one strategy for observability with Dynatrace now in the whole New Greek group, which is great because now we can start to cover all the cloud applications too. For now we only work on premise, but now we're going to cloud applications, and it will be interesting. It will be more interesting in the light of what we heard today. So
again, you're extending the scope of Dynatrace within your environment. So I guess you saw actual benefits of using Dynatrace. So could you share some the value that you saw by using Dynatrace and maybe applying the automation to performance?
The value is that we will understand the applications and what is happening inside the application end to end. And this helps a lot with solving difficult problems, which we are working weeks and months. And with Dynatrace, we fix it in not hours, but in one day. So that was perfect, and our top management saw this and said, okay, we have to do more with Dynatrace. And this was the starting point, to get a group contract and then go broader in our application landscape.
So when you are using Dynatrace with performance engineering practices, are you mainly focusing on metrics, logs, or are you also using the value of tracing as well, the way you analyze and the way you understand?
Maybe I'll catch up on that. Yes, so we use actually all the capabilities of Dynatrace, since I would say in the world before Dynatrace, we needed to pinpoint the bottleneck using some metrics we got out of different systems. Then we needed to reproduce the test. We needed to introduce further profiling tools. So it was a long process actually of getting to the root cause. With Dynatrace, we have it all out of the box. We use even method hotspots, so beyond tracing, going to the code level and create tickets that actually help the developers to fix the problems as fast as possible. Beforehand, we had to explain what was happening in the test and also how do you get to the solution. Now it's already way beyond the journey of fixing the problem. Developers receive a lot more information.
My name is Goudreault. I work at Gigamon. I am the cloud evangelist there, and I've got a probably 20-year history in IT networking, network performance, deep packet inspection, all those fun things from the network layer.
And we have also Rob, Jahn from Dynatrace. So, hi Rob, how are you?
Yeah, hi Henrik. It's great to be here at Perform. Yeah, so I'm a technical partner evangelist as well as an advocate. I've been with Dynatrace several years, so I'm excited to be back in person at Perform.
So, first of all, my big interest, because Rob, we had a discussion, you say, hey, we have a partner doing networking, providing visibility on network. I said, oh, that sounds pretty cool, because I was very interested on this. So, Stephen or Rob, could you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so, I'll just jump in a little bit. So, Dynatrace is, as you know, a full stack monitoring solution, and we're really, seeing end user through the full stack. And really the details of the network, we have a level of process to process and host communications, but really the underlying network span data, what's happening, and that's where Stephen's going to talk about some of the use cases, is really what we're excited that we can now bring into Dynatrace. And because there's a large volume of data, our new Grail data lakehouse really makes that possible. So being able to read highly variable attributed data is what we're excited about. So we've been here at a booth here at the show. We're really showcasing the demo and bringing in live data and a lot of use cases. So I'm excited about that.
So you mentioned Grail in this integration. So it means that the network components are adding extra context to the data. So tell me more. I'm interested.
So we're a data source for Dynatrace. So Gigamon is an 18-year-old legacy network packet broker company. That's where we got our start. But what we solve for you guys is a bottom-up view of applications and data in motion in the public cloud, in the private cloud, on-prem. So what we can solve for has been pretty unsolvable up until now, and that's broad east-west visibility of applications and protocols that are in transit from the network perspective. So we see things from the bottom up, while you kind of see things from the top down, and there's some things that are very, very easy to see for us that we can then feed into Grail.
So for example, if I'm using, let's say I'm using a data center in Amazon, and then I have another part of my infrastructure sitting on another cloud provider, and I have a mix of virtual machines and Kubernetes. So what type of network insights would I have from that?
So the very first thing we can offer you is at-a-glance performance. If one of the network or cloud providers is having latency or delay, we will see that by watching the traffic in transit. So we don't create synthetic probes, we don't do any kind of probing ourselves, we watch the traffic go and come back. And we can, sometimes a cloud provider has some kind of a performance problem, and it's very, very difficult for the users to troubleshoot that. And from our perspective, we can tell you right away where the delay is. So either you will move to a different availability zone or go to lunch, because there's nothing you can do. But at a glance where to either start or stop troubleshooting.
So what do I need to, if I want to take advantage of it, do I need to deploy like a virtual appliance in the network, or it's just like a small process that sits in the virtual machines or in the pod or in the container?
So it depends on where we're deployed. So in the private cloud on-prem, we will tap layer 2 and we'll look at the traffic that way, but there is no layer 2 in the public cloud. So depending on the cloud provider, either we'll use native mirroring for cloud providers that have that, and for cloud providers that don't have that, we have a kernel mod or a small virtual tap that will reside on the workloads. It integrates into the CI/CD deployment pipeline, and then it sends a copy of the traffic to our virtual taps, which will then perform deep packet inspection on it, analytics, convert that metadata into a JSON file, which we can then feed to Grail.
Okay, so it makes sense. So it means at the end, you lively sending the data back to Dynatrace, so then the data are linked to any entities or service or host or so. Rob, give us some details about that.
Yeah, as Steve was talking about, there's a high volume of data, as you can imagine, with all this network traffic. So for one, that's why Grail is the perfect answer for that, because we can take in this JSON data, and there's many different applications that the user would configure on the Gigamon side to say, what am I actually monitoring? Is it SSH traffic? Is it HTTP traffic? There's over a couple hundred different application types.
Yeah, we have over 5,000 applications and attributes that we can monitor.
Attributes. So it's a highly variable set of data. So and that's what's great about it. It's perfect for DQL, because the query language is all about schema on read. So we can stream this data from Gigamon at high volume, and then the analytics is now possible. So because you can, with DQL, it's all schema on read. You can say, pick this application, filter on that, pull out data, convert attributes within this, that was originally JSON, turn that into a numeric, summarize data, and there's a whole lot of different sort of use cases that are all opened up in terms of looking at this data. So whether that's port spoofing, latency on DNS, or just potential malicious things running on your network, you have all those insights. So that's what's exciting.
Yesterday we had a breakout session together with Kira for our customer for a long time, and we were actually discussing multi-cloud observability. kind of a brief overview on what Dynatrace can do in those three clouds, as you mentioned, AWS, Azure, and GCP, and how the vision actually shapes for the future of monitoring of the cloud. And this has also been kind of reiterated in our today's main stage sessions by Guido or by Florian.
So there were several announcements during the last 2 days, a lot of exciting announcements. And when I'm thinking about multi-cloud providers usage, I may want probably also take advantage of the various features that was been presenting, so App Engine, workflow, being able to do DQL. So when it comes to data that we are collecting from the various providers, would I be able to take advantage of that?
Oh, definitely. All the cloud data that we're ingesting already is DQL available, so you can use that in notebooks, in your application, everywhere. And I think what we are now getting with Grail, so Grail for metrics as well, is to get rid of, I would say limits, but I would say boundaries, because this is the word that we use in these days, for actually ingesting much more entities from the cloud into Dynatrace. So we've been a bit, I want to say limited, but we'll be cautious. We've been cautious on that. And I think now we can finally start to utilize the unlimited space that Grail offers us to actually have all the cloud data into Dynatrace, especially in terms of entities.
I guess with the fact that now we have Grail and App Engine and Workflow Engine, do we gonna have a couple of new features related to the integration we have with the cloud providers in the future?
Definitely, and this has also been discussed already, like cloud optimization, but the one that I'm focusing most these days is the multi-cloud overview, which would allow customers to analyze entity services cross-cloud. It's like all the organizations these days are multi-cloud, even if they don't know it, they are already multi-cloud, either public or private. But those questions, like my database servers in all the clouds, or my underutilized hosts in GCP and Azure, these questions were quite hard to answer with the previous generation. So I think now with the new overview, we'll be able to answer those questions quite easily, and also pay to that optimization goal that we want to achieve with customers.
So do we expect to have sort of app for?
Oh yeah, definitely. This will be an app. This will be and like everything now these days will be a new app. We still want to maintain this very generic approach so you can visualize everything. It's not just the use cases, but those use cases will be more prominent and realized by the apps. And then underneath, with the intent, we probably have all the visualization that we have now, just improved.
So we clearly after perform, but we had a technical issue during one of the interviews that we had with one of the Dynatrace partner, Amazon. So now, after 2 weeks, I have now the honor to have Bill Zajac from Amazon with me. So let's deliver this interview. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. Thanks, and great to see you again. Yeah.
Me too. Before we start the actual interview, could you introduce yourself to the community?
Yeah, my name is Bill Zajac. I'm the category lead for observability with the Amazon Partner Organization. So within my role, I take a look at all of the different ISVs or independent software vendors that AWS partners with and make sure that we have a really good deep dive understanding of what the differentiators are at a given ISV level, and then as well as start looking for opportunities to collaborate, start looking for opportunities to mutually solve end customers' problems.
For those who are not aware, we already have a good integration with Amazon, providing and collecting various assets from the various services provided by Amazon. At the end, I guess you are in direct relationship with various product managers in charge of the integration with the cloud providers.
Yeah, exactly. And the partnership with AWS and Dynatrace is going back over 7 years now. So it's been a great mutual opportunity for us to when customers are asking what's going on inside my environment, how can I proactively identify issues, or we're even going some additional use cases these days with security level conversations. It's been really fun all around to really sit back and say when customers have deep dive questions around what's going on inside of their workload or their application, that visibility is needed. And we're really excited to see how Dynatrace is leaning into the AWS landscape and not only looking at what additional integrations can be done to collect more telemetry data outside of the environment, but then what do you do with that data, and how do you create specific events that then you can integrate with other AWS services, or maybe take some more direct ownership of doing things inside of that end customer's environment, whether it's from a performance or security lens as well. So the partnership to this date has been very successful. We have a lot of great customer anecdotes and testimonials on how AWS plus Dynatrace have helped solve customers' problems, but the roadmap and the newness that's coming out, especially with the Grail offering and what that opens up for the partnership too, is also very, very exciting of what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of months and years.
During Perform, there were lots of amazing announcements. So to quickly list them, we had, of course, the DQL, not only supporting the biz events and logs. Now with Grail, we can store more assets and be able to query them, so the metrics, the traces, the smartscapes, and more. Next, we had this amazing app engine, which is very exciting, and I really liked, in fact, to be able to build my own workflow with the help of the workflow engine. There's tons of great things, of course, with the new UI that allow us to achieve more things, like the new dashboard experience, to be able to create notebook, to be able to understand properly a problem. I really love it. As a partner, do you see any new use cases with those new features?
Yeah, and I think the overall observability market, we have seen at AWS a dramatic shift from the idea of observability players being the standard mechanism for how customers collect data, and whether it's agent-based technology or other proprietary mechanisms, where now there's a shift to how does a customer scale in real time and leverage cloud native offerings, or what the underlying workload is producing through things like CloudWatch. As well as, the open source explosion of open telemetry and Prometheus, just saying, hey, this underlying workload is going to be emitting telemetry data through multiple different ways. So a great example of how Dynatrace has really leaned in to being able to solve a customer's complete observability needs is with the FireLens release that was recently done, leveraging FluentBit, open source, known standard, to augment how Dynatrace can collect log files out of Fargate deployments. So identifying that customers, had this gap, had this need to be able to complete their observability picture and leverage what's pretty much already there and a pretty set standard in those environments to have a quick integration option for customers needing to close that gap. So the fun part comes in from the partnership angle on both of our sides is, with these types of opportunities and with there's going to be constantly a new thing that we can collect, a new data point that we can integrate with customers. How do we make sure that we're always completing that picture for the customer? And then also, how do we prioritize the things that we focus on as a partnership to make sure that complete landscape is being covered from Dynatrace? So again, very, very exciting. And I think that there's going to be exponentially more conversations like we've had with the FireLens Fargate conversation today.
I know that Amazon provides lots of various supports for open observability frameworks of the market. So to briefly mention, you have FireLens, which is a way of injecting Fluent bits into Fargo containers. I think it's a great offering, but you also have other offers like the managed Prometheus for CloudWatch, and you also have a managed versions of the Open Telemetry Collector. Could you describe a bit the offering related to your managed Open Telemetry Collector?
Yeah. So Amazon has its own distribution of Open Telemetry that we refer to as AWS distribution of Open Telemetry, or ADOT for short. So it is in parallel aligned with the open source project as well, and then there's contributions from the AWS engineering staff contributing to it. I have a really tight relationship with Michael Hausenblas, who's the PM on the AWS side, who is the one that's more of our direct spokesperson for contributions to the open source project. And he is working directly with ISVs like Dynatrace to make sure that there's mutual alignment on what are end customers asking for, and what does the underlying open telemetry project roadmap look like, as well as making sure that the contributions from ADOT are aligned with that as well. So we're definitely seeing, as organizations are maturing and going down their cloud native journey or just modernization, they're looking for easier ways to get the right telemetry data out of their environment. They want some sort of standards where the things should be emitted that are required from the underlying workloads, and then where does that data go is really the next conversation of where an ISV like Dynatrace can help with the additional analytics or the additional integrations downstream as it comes to potentially automating the next steps of when an event is seen that is anomalous or requires intervention. Those are the interesting conversations that we're starting to see, is working backwards from what are customers really asking for, and then taking a look at what is the underlying workload already emit, whether it's from CloudWatch or whether it's from AMP, Amazon Managed Prometheus, or whether it's from customers who have gone down the open telemetry route. But really kind of making sure that we're always thinking about what are we going to be doing with this data, as opposed to what data is there and how can we aggregate it.
That's it for today's episode dedicated to the conference Dynatrace Perform. As you saw, there is lots of great announcements, lots of product updates that has been announced during the week of the conference. So the notebook, the dashboards, the app engine, the ability to build workflow based on the data. It's pretty exciting, and also the fact that now in Grail, we are not limited to logs and busy events, but also with spans, with metrics, and way more, in fact. Lots of great partners has also shared their integration, what they provide to the Dynatrace customers. So lots of interesting information. So if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And see you soon for a traditional episode. We're going to talk about more about observability framework of the market. See you soon. Bye.